The footage quickly became one of the most unsettling videos on the internet. Some people actually disappear without a trace, and there are some alien conspiracies. So if you are here and you're very interested in 411, you might not have heard of these.
Oh my gosh, I think I know this one.
Nobody knows what truly happened during those final moments on board the ship.
Let's be detectives together and see if
we're
we
going to
can
be like
look at
Sherlock
this.
Holmes. We're going to figure it out. What is the government hiding? Hello, you have just discovered the Munch Corner podcast. We are your hosts, Savannah and Omar.
Yes, we are. We're here to have some very interesting conversations with you, and maybe we can get you to be intrigued. Come back and check everything out.
So grab your tea. We have Cecil on today, and it's a bit more of a gloomy day, so it fits right into the theme that we're doing today.
Yes, and we do like our octopus today. So
we do. We just actually watched... what was that movie we watched? Just watched on Netflix.
Like Bright, Interesting Creatures? Was that what it was called?
It was Remarkably Bright Creatures.
Remarkably Bright Creatures.
And it was about an octopus, which is absolutely beautiful. We highly recommend it.
We do have a lot of fun this for octopi in general. So this is actually a great one for us. It's a great start.
So since it is a bit of a gloomy day, I think our theme is fitting. We are covering some 411 missing people's cases.
This is going to be fascinating. I'm glad that we're doing this.
Some people don't know about it. It's basically people that have gone missing with strange patterns surrounding the missing people. So it could either be similarities between these. It's oftentimes between around parks or in national reserve areas.
Parks are portals to other places,
yes,
anyway,
forests.
Right?
So it's very interesting because some people actually disappear without a trace, and there are some alien conspiracies behind this.
Theorists.
Yes, exactly. So
for those of you who feel like, how did the pyramids get built? It was aliens. But no, and we're kidding about that. But these are very intriguing stories, and the ones that we have selected are actually not so much.
So these ones are less spoken about.
But the reason we want to cover them is because we think they're equally important. Of
course, you get the more popular cases, but we've chosen to basically pick a handful of ones that maybe not a lot of people hear about. So if you are here and you're very interested in 411, you might not have heard of these. So I'll be giving you a breakdown of the person's background. And after you have a bit of a background, we're going to jump into the day they disappeared.
And then let's be detectives together and see if
we're going to be like Sherlock Holmes. We're going to figure it out. So our first person is Cindy James.
Okay.
So Cindy James was a nurse from Canada described by friends as kind, intelligent, and caring. But for years before her disappearance, Cindy claimed she was being stalked by an unknown person repeatedly terrorizing her. She reported threatening phone calls, break-ins, strange notes, and multiple terrifying attacks. Police struggled to determine whether someone was truly targeting her or whether something else was going on.
Police usually don't say something else going on because that leads us to think there's something else going on.
Well, let's find out what happened the day of the disappearance. Okay. So this is May 1989. Sorry.
Oh, wow.
My apologies.
Big difference in the recording part. Okay.
No, not 100 years before that. So Cindy suddenly vanished. Days later, her abandoned car was discovered in a parking lot with groceries still inside. Then nearly 2 weeks afterwards, Cindy's body was discovered in an abandoned area near Richmond, British Columbia. What made the case so disturbing was the condition she was found in. Her hands and feet were bound, a nylon stocking had been tied around her neck, and investigators could not determine whether her death was murder, suicide, or something even stranger. Why would it be suicide?
I don't know how that would be and how that person would bound themselves after they've essentially committed suicide. No.
Even years later, people remain divided on what truly happened to Cindy James and whether the stalker she feared was ever real. So this just sounds like a murder case.
It really does sound very much like a murder case. So it's 1989, so the technology was a little different back then.
That is not a suicide case. I mean, that's ridiculous to even assume that.
I think the idea that somebody's hands were bound is
at this point
crazy.
It's a cold case, unfortunately.
It's
not a missing person case. She initially went missing, but she was...
How long was she missing for?
They said 2 weeks later her body was found. Yeah,
I mean, it really does lend itself to the idea that she was literally having a stalker. and that person was obsessed with
Well,
her.
the fact that there's a series of 411 books, and people who are fond of the topic probably would have read them all, because I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of these stories.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of people go missing every year, and many of them you never find again, and you don't know what happened at all.
Yeah, so it seems like there really wasn't much to go on in this case, but suicide, no.
No, probably
bit of-
not. I mean, it does sound like she did have, unfortunately, a stalker that,
Especially considering the
that-
details before.
yeah, the details that she had, and I mean, I'm sure the police would have looked into notes, because if you're having, it's a phone call is different, right? I mean, unless you're recording it, but you got the combination of the recordings, or not recordings, but the phone calls as well as the notes and everything else. That would have been enough to set the stage for, I mean, this is really a true crime,
I
unfortunately.
do agree. The people we are covering, oftentimes we do have pictures of them. So if you are curious about what they look like, we'll pop it up on the screen for you for visual watchers.
And for those people out there that have suffered this, I mean, for the not knowing, I think is one of the hardest things.
Oh, it is. It's so hard to find closure. If you, I mean, because you still wonder, again, she's dead, but you don't know what happened and who did it.
And if it's a cold case, like many other cold cases, I think our hearts go out to the people who basically suffer through those, and the families and friends and loved ones that lose people like this. And if they can't find closure, I mean, in the sense of trying to understand that, I think for me, I've always been very intrigued, because you do have this sense, at least in my mind, that I want to find out what's happening. And not necessarily for myself, but as much for giving those people who were, at least the families of the victims, some kind of closure of what happened. It's not changing the tragedy or the disappearance, although sometimes disappearances are not as, they do get resolved. I mean, even if it's years later.
It must be like incredibly hard to mourn completely if you don't know everything.
No.
So no, that is very heartbreaking. I myself actually was not actually aware we were going to be covering murder cases. So I guess we'll see what the rest of them.
Well, this is going to be interesting for us. I mean, we do love covering things for our community, but we're here. We need to be one community. I think this tells us this. And I think if somebody is facing a stalker, I think all of us should try to help in any way that we can.
As much as we like covering stories and entertaining you, it is very much on the side of we want to help educate and stand united and talk through situations like this, knowing how we can be better aware about our surroundings.
So, and I think that for me, the one takeaway, although we're not really directly involved with the case to really see what's out there to directly help, but I think if you have somebody who is feeling that they're being watched and stalked,
You need to tell people.
Tell people if you're the one experiencing it, but the other part is for those of you that hear it, take it seriously. There's no reason to assume.
I'd rather err on the side of being extra cautious.
I think so too. Even if it comes out to some kind of a benign thing that was just strange, that's better to know than to just sort of blow it off essentially and say, no, probably not. I think trust your instincts on this one.
So our second one is Amy Lynn Bradley. So Amy Bradley was a 23-year-old woman from Virginia, described as athletic, outgoing, and very close with her family. In 1998, she boarded a Caribbean cruise with her parents and brother for what was supposed to be a relaxing family vacation. So on the day of her disappearance, so on the night of March 23rd, Amy spent time dancing at the ship's nightclub before eventually returning to the family cabin. Hours later, Emily's father briefly woke up and saw her sitting on the balcony outside her room. But when he woke up again, a short time later, Amy was gone. Searches immediately began across the massive cruise ship before it reached port, but there was no sign of her anywhere on board. No clear evidence she fell, no confirmed explanation for how she vanished from a moving ship in the middle of the ocean. Then years later, alleged sightings of Amy began, surfacing in different countries throughout the Caribbean. Some people claim she had been trafficked. Others believe she somehow fell overboard unnoticed. But to this day, nobody knows what truly happened during those final moments on board the ship.
This one's a tough one because, I don't think Savannah and I are not fond of cruises in general, but you can imagine
people can fall overboard.
People can fall overboard, and no one's going to notice. I mean, honestly,
and there's going to be no evidence.
There's no evidence. I mean, the ocean.
There's no evidence of tipping over.
Yeah, the ocean is massive, and you're going to disappear into it. I mean, it's possible you can retrieve somebody who fell overboard if somebody notices right away. But at the rate the cruise ship is moving, I mean, if they noticed it even 30 minutes later.
But it's not just that. If
And
you
it's a
fall
night.
overboard, you still have a risk of. Can't you get hit by the side of the cruise ship too? There's a bunch of turbines and things like that.
Well, I mean, it depends on where
forward.
she is. I mean, yes, I think obviously that's a possibility. But let's say she's midship, she falls out.
But let's keep in mind, people have reported sightings of seeing her. So there are people that are lookalikes. And actually, talking about lookalikes, I actually dreamt about someone that was my lookalike last night.
Oh, as opposed to the doppelganger you found about me driving on the freeway?
Yeah, well, we'll actually cover lookalikes, but
those are very intriguing. Yes,
it's interesting just because even though someone could look remarkably alike, it doesn't necessarily obviously mean that it's the same person.
True,
but there are people that fake their disappearances and start over.
So
That's incredibly hard these days, though.
I think it's much harder, obviously, in an electronic age than it was. I mean, back in 98 or 99 when this happened, there obviously were more possibilities further back you go in time. The sad part about this is I don't think they'll ever find an answer. I mean, if she fell overboard and it was a long drop and she came down the wrong way, I mean, hitting the ocean at that height could have knocked her out right away and then she could have just drowned.
Mm-hmm.
The sightings, I think people oftentimes see what they want to see. And so it's they sort of like want to be part of a conspiracy theory or whatever it might be. It's a little bit of that self-importance. But I think somebody who's healthy and happy and is enjoying a cruise, I think
accidents happen.
I think accidents would happen. And honestly, if she was dancing and she was drinking, she could have gotten up and lost her balance and then went right overboard, especially if she's sitting
I definitely
outside.
hope she wasn't trafficked because, I mean, that does happen.
No, that would be an absolute terrible thing because we've spent some time looking at how trafficking occurs across the world.
They're definitely something people should be informed about.
Absolutely,
it is a bit of a heavier topic, which, again, we do cover all types of topics. And although some topics are heavy, it's informative. Just because you don't listen to a topic does not mean
it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. So I used to turn a blind eye to like news because I felt like it weighed so heavily on me. And then I started realizing, well, just because I don't listen to it doesn't mean it's inevitably going to happen, right? So I'd rather be informed and find a way to not let it weigh me down, but still walk around knowing exactly what's happening in the world. So we do encourage people.
But that is actually something wise that Savannah is saying, and really do take that to heart. You need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to trust your instincts. Be prepared for the unprepared. It's something you can't be necessarily prepared for, and that's part of being in a great mental state. And I think be aware of your surroundings. I mean, obviously, if you're in a little place in suburbia, maybe not as much of a concern, but if you're in the middle of the city, you do need to be aware of everything going on around you.
Yeah, it's very busy. Cities are tough ones.
Yes.
Okay, so our next one is Elisa Lam. So Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old student from Canada who traveled alone to California in 2013. So
okay, more recent.
Friends described her as intelligent, creative, and deeply expressive online. During her trip, she stayed at the infamous Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. So the day of her disappearance, late January 2013, Elisa?
I think it just depends on how you pronounce it more than anything else. The spelling's the same.
Stopped contacting her family. Days later, hotel guests began complaining about strange issues with the building's water supply.
Oh my gosh, I think I know this one.
I think we've heard this one before.
I think we've heard this one before, yeah.
The pressure was low. Yeah, the water appeared dark, and some guests said it tasted unusual. Yeah. Then investigators released security footage from one of the hotel elevators shortly before Elisa disappeared. The footage quickly became one of the most unsettling videos on the internet. Elisa appeared to behave erratically inside the elevator, pressing multiple buttons, peering into the hallway, stepped in and out repeatedly, and at times appearing to speak to someone unseen. Then she vanished. Weeks later, Elisa's body was discovered inside one of the hotel's rooftop water tanks. Yeah,
I remember the story. This was And if you haven't seen the footage on it, it actually is it is rather disturbing.
It
So I
is
think Savannah and I actually have seen this one, and
we've seen the footage on this.
it's very
bizarre.
much, it's very, very
she
strange.
Must have been on something. Or
Well,
someone laced a drink, or definitely drugged her.
There was a sense of paranoia and nervousness about what she was doing. I mean, but it didn't seem like there was anybody with her. I mean, if we go down the paranormal route, you could turn around and say there was something haunting her. But all the steps that she took to wander in and out of the elevator, which is the last footage they saw of her, and then to essentially, they did do an investigation to see how possible would it have been for her to just wander onto the roof and get into the tank and fall into it. And there was really, it's not set up for that, right? I mean, so the tank, I remember on the roof it doesn't like have an emergency hatch where you can just like get out of it.
But I think if you're intoxicated or on something and you're speaking to someone who's not really there, you're not in your right mind to begin with. And we've heard some extremely bizarre stories. Shout out to Mr. Ballin.
Yes, Mr. Ballin is
we
actually
are very
really
big
good storyteller.
Fans. Maybe in the future we can do a collab. But
yeah. That would be really fun.
There are some cases where if people are not in their right minds, they do extremely silly things. And unfortunately, in this case, she might not have been aware it was a water tank and just fell right in.
But what's intriguing is those things, and I will tell you just from an engineering point of view, they're not like, let's just have a hatch that's not locked. These things are locked, particularly.
I think it's become better over time. But yes, 2013, I think they would have been heavily regulated.
In sort of dealing with buildings and industrial areas and facilities, those things are just not left for the occasional person. The only reason I could say that maybe it wasn't locked is maybe somebody didn't actually do it at the time, like it was an oversight. But generally those things are like locked up. So this was made even more intriguing. It's like, how did she find her way in that state of mind from place to place, not really knowing where she's going to actually land in there? But it's a
here's a theory. Maybe someone intentionally did drug her in some way and was trying to talk her into like a dare or doing something. And this is why she was pacing, talking to someone.
It's always a possibility. I mean, I think if there was a way to trace what happened to her prior to that time, then you can start understanding a bit more. And
I can't get over the water tasting. I can't even imagine. But our last sentence here is, so to this day, people continue debating what truly happened during her final hours inside the hotel.
And I think that's the biggest thing, because you obviously get some security footage, which I know the police have already gone through and everything else, but how do you come back and try to retrace somebody's steps everywhere?
And they would have mentioned if they saw someone else suspicious that could have been part of this, but from what it sounded like, she was seen by herself.
I would suspect, just by looking at the footage we did have access to, and again, we wouldn't have necessarily everything, there wasn't anybody with her.
No.
Now, it doesn't mean that in her mind she didn't think there was somebody there with her. But it's this is, I think, a good reminder to everybody that when you're traveling and you keep in touch with your family, this is part of your safety net. Now, not only is it love, obviously, with your family, but or friends, if you have somebody that you're very close to, definitely do that and keep up with it.
I'd love to say something as well. As a stranger, if you don't know someone, but you see something suspicious, notify authorities, notify people around, because a lot of things can be prevented too.
There's that. And then there's this idea that I think people should be more aware of. So she was pretty young, and there's this idea that I'm immune, right? Or it's not going to happen to me. And I think that exists in all of us, which is this blindness that we walk around and feel like, oh, no, that crime happened to somebody else. It would never happen to me. I would never be in those circumstances. All those people thought they weren't going to be in those circumstances, and they were in those circumstances.
So it's not something you see coming, and it's not to say live in fear, but I think just be realistic that bad things happen anywhere in the world.
And an example would be if she had, let's say, been out and she had a drink somewhere, which again, we have no idea exactly what happened, but that's a great example of what does occur. Somebody could get roofied pretty easily, or they could have something slipped into their drink, and then you're walking out, and then the effects come in to get you. And so you have to always be aware of that. And I think there's this sense of immunity that you go somewhere and you're surrounded by people that seem likable. I mean, even shoot, a bartender could do it. I mean, there's lots of things that could
Anyone.
happen.
I mean, it could
Anybody.
be the people you least expect as well.
Exactly. And you do place a certain amount of trust in certain people because of the positions they're in. And so you always have to be aware of that. And for me, particularly if you're a young woman, be with friends, have kind of your security blanket with others to watch out and have somebody who's really going to help. And again, we have no idea how she got there, but it seemed like she did ingest something. That would be my guess. And I don't think because of the body's condition, they would have ever found out what it was. So
no,
unfortunately,
included.
No, it's a very sad case. And it's sad that you have somebody whose, life has been cut short. So.
Yes, we didn't actually. I didn't know that we were going to be covering the murder stories. We have a disappearance or two, but the rest of it's murders. Okay, but we'll finish up on our last story.
Okay.
It's called the Springfield Three. So in June of 1992, 3 women disappeared together from a home in Springfield, Missouri. The missing women were Cheryl Levitt, her daughter Susie Streeter, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall.
Okay.
Friends described the night before their disappearance as completely normal. So, day of the disappearance. After attending graduation parties, Susie and Stacy returned to Cheryl's home late that night. But by the next morning, all 3 women were gone. What made the case deeply eerie was the condition of the house afterward. Their cars remained parked outside. Purses, clothing, cigarettes, and personal belongings had all been left behind. Even the family dog was still inside the house. Why did I just get chills? So nothing appeared stolen. There was no obvious signs of a violent struggle, but somehow 3 women had vanished from the same home overnight without waking neighbors or leaving behind clear evidence. More than 30 years later, nobody knows what happened inside that house during the night.
Well, it sure seems like they walked out. I mean, it's if you have a house that's intact.
Maybe they went for a night walk or something.
It could have been. I mean, I don't know much about Springfield, Missouri.
It sounded like it would have been more isolated, no?
Springfield is not a small place in Missouri, but I don't know exactly where they would have been.
They don't say.
So but somebody just walking out. I mean, they could have obviously done a nighttime walk if you think about it, and if
but still, they would have found evidence somewhere.
Not necessarily. I mean, if you think about it, they walked out the door and they were going to take a walk. I don't know what time it would have been. And they're walking down the street.
But if they searched surrounding areas and there was ever evidence that something did happen to them, they might have found it, like, I don't know, blood or a shoe or a piece of clothing or something like that.
It depends on whether or not they may have been kidnapped. I mean, that's the thing. If you have somebody driving up in a van and pulling them in and then they're gone, what evidence would you find? I mean, maybe you would have somebody stepped out of their shoe or whatever it would be. They would have found that. But there's always something like that would be a possibility. But it seems like they voluntarily left the place.
Aliens.
I don't essentially jump to that first.
No, I'm just poking at people.
I know, and I know that becomes the almost for those people who really believe in aliens and everything else.
By the way, and I'm not saying I don't believe in aliens. I feel like aliens is obviously such a man-made term. Like,
well,
for anything alien, it's an extraterrestrial being. I do believe we're not the only beings to exist.
LGPs. So, little green people.
Yes, little green people. Although, again, what makes people think that the way we imagine them and describe them is the way that they actually are? It's no different to
honestly,
you telling me that other beings in their mind would describe us precisely as we are and create videos about movies about us and the things that we do.
Well, the sad part is if they look at social media and our news, it would be horrible.
Well, I think that's why they've been scared away by everything that we're doing. So I'm not negating that there are extraterrestrial beings out there. This is actually a very fascinating topic, especially when there's evidence around it and what is the government hiding, what's all these...
Well, that's the conspiracy theories part.
Yes. So, again, these are things we love covering. We have so many areas of interest. In this case, I don't think I have any idea what could have happened to these women.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, we're reading these stories and we're we're attempting to put on a little detective hats as we try to look at this, but we really have very little information.
Of course.
I think it's again a reminder of you have to be careful what's going on out there. I don't think people readily disappear. I mean, think about the circumstances that you have with these three. You have two of them that graduated, so I'm assuming high school, mom with them. So you have somebody who's a bit seasoned in life. You have two people who are maturing into life. It's a happy moment for them. So they're celebrating this great transition.
It doesn't seem like there's any intention to...
There's no intention to really disappear. I think if you had somebody who was withdrawn and they got into their own head in a different world, whatever it would be. I mean, and unfortunately in today's world, you can be online and you can find that world and it could pull you away, right? And not that this wouldn't have happened in 2013, just not as likely. But the reality is, I think either somebody came to the door and they all walked out, so somebody they knew.
Yes.
Or the other choice is they took a walk somewhere and then something happened to them, in that process. Again, I don't think Springfield is known for high crime. However,
a lot of places aren't necessarily.
But it doesn't
still
necessarily,
happens.
it still happens anyway, so.
Well, that's pretty fascinating. I mean, I think we're both surprised by the stories we covered. I did not read these prior, so this
is intentional.
Just
I mean,
pulling
for us,
it together.
It's for us to try to be expressive and figuring it out with you on the fly with us. So we do some research, obviously, up front to see some of the stories to see if they're intriguing, but we want the full effect to be kind of with our community. So,
and we already have part 2 lined up. So we do want to give more time and focus on missing people's cases that aren't often covered. Just because there's maybe not as much details behind them doesn't mean it's kind of nice to break apart and maybe figure out what happened. There are much more famous cases which are covered more broadly, just in YouTube and in general on the internet. But yes, I mean, we can all put our detective hats on and see how we can piece things together. Maybe there's something we miss that you guys feel could have happened.
I think if we can do a deeper dive in some of these stories, it would be really intriguing to share. And obviously, I think if you're out there, a clue can come from anybody. Yeah,
it's
think
incredible
that's an important
when people band together. How they can cipher something, because if you have several different minds tackling a specific case or scenario, everyone's thinking differently, so their way about going about finding information is so fascinating, and how they can actually dig up possible evidence to figure something out.
Well, it's about our perspectives, right? So we each have our own perspectives. We're unique in the way we look at things, and from that alone itself, you could see something that's different. And I know we're not trained for that.
I do feel like the more perspectives you have, more insightful something can actually be.
I agree. I mean, we're not turning around replacing our very talented police officers and detectives out there looking for this, and investigators. But I can tell you, if we band together as a community, certain things may come up that would never have happened or never been brought to light if we hadn't, as a community, sort of looked at that. So, I mean, for us, for me in particular, if I'm walking around the neighborhood here, if something seems out of whack, I'll notice it. It is our neighborhood. It is our community. And so you want to be part of it. You want to know as much as possible your neighbors. You want to know what's going on. In fact, I would love to have a great relationship with our police officers out there, because they're part of the community as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is what makes us safer together and supportive together. And I think if we don't have that, we lose quite a bit. It's a great quality of a neighborhood if you can get it. So, and I know it's not always possible.
Definitely be aware of your surroundings, and we don't cover these stories to scare anyone. I think it's really is just education and kind of knowing that as things happen around the world, it's not to live in fear. And it's very interesting to cover these stories with you, because we do watch it leisurely as well as entertainment.
Yeah. Awareness is one of the key things to being able to be not only helping others, but also helping yourself.
I couldn't agree more. Well, it was wonderful having you.
Thank you for sharing this with us, and we'll come back with some more interesting stories and get your detective hats on a little bit, and then hopefully build your awareness as you're going around.
Well, thank you for sticking with us at the Munch Corner. Until next time.
Until next time.
Bye.